side. So I'm just going to take a few minutes and put my feet up and just let my body cool down. When I set up for this little exercise, which is called Vipariti Karani, which just means legs up the wall, I put a couple of folded Mexican sorapes under my hips, and I left a little gap so that my pelvis could tilt. And this is going to set my thigh bones in the sockets just right. I know you can't see my feet, but if I wanted to, I could put a nice sandbag up on top of them, and this would plug my legs into the hip sockets and really relieve my low back. But today, I just want to lie here and cool down. You know, I set up in this tiny little corner so that you could see that you don't need a lot of room to do yoga. I haven't even got my yoga mat fully extended. Being a yoga teacher over the last 20 years, I've heard every excuse imaginable about why somebody can't do yoga, why they can't make it to yoga. Well, over the next few weeks and months, I'm going to take away every single excuse you have and make it easy for you to do yoga. For this exercise, I've also got myself a little yoga belt, and you can buy these online, but you know what? You don't even need a yoga belt. You can use an old tie, any kind of a belt, a towel, and some of you are flexible enough you won't even need one. Another thing that I like to use is an eye pillow or an eye bag. This one is filled with flaxseed and lavender, and I just take the bulk of the weight and put it on my forehead and just the lightest bit of the cloth over the eyes, and this cools my head. In these hot months of summer, this is so important. I've just come in out of traffic, and it was a little bit stressful even though I was doing my yoga breathing and listening to beautiful music. It's still very hot and a little bit stressful on the road. So after several minutes of this, I'm going to bring the eye bag, and you can stay there, you can pause the video, stay there as long as you want. This is your time. To come out of this, if you have a sandbag on your feet, you're going to slide your heels down the wall and just pull that sandbag off to the side. Then you're going to roll and come up. See there? So that is super easy. Now I feel really cooled down and a little more enthusiastic about doing a yoga practice. So today, I'm just going to do a couple of simple stretches. I don't want to do anything too intense, but I want to stretch my hips and ease my legs and my low back, and then I can go have a nice dinner and be much more presentable for my friends or my family. So I'm going to roll back down onto my back. And all you're going to do is plant your feet flat on the floor and make sure that you can get your hand under your waistline. Keep your nose pointing right toward the ceiling, so you're on the center of the back of your head. Then you're going to bring one foot up, and you're just going to put the belt around the arch of the foot, around the ball of the foot, or there's another technique where you put the belt around the heel and cross it in the back like that. Now I want you to play with those three different styles of rope binding, because they all give you a different effect, and you may find you prefer one over the other. Today this feels really good, but I like to put it around the ball of my foot because it reminds me to floint. It keeps me extending from the core through the ball of the foot. I want you to notice that I'm not hyperextending and I'm not pulling down on my foot. I'm extending from the core through the leg like I'm pushing a little cosmic gas pedal. And I'm resisting. I'm not bending my elbows. I'm holding it as close to my foot as I can without causing my shoulders to round up like that. So, right? Heart lifted, throat open, neck muscle soft, shoulders back, clasp the belt with an easy grip, just like you're, driving a team of horses. And just extend, and this feels really good. Another thing that you can do, you can even hold the belt with one hand, place the other arm in cactus pose, and just do some circles. It's like I'm taking the ball of my foot, drawing a circle on the ceiling. And you can make these circles get bigger and bigger and bigger. And I'm doing this really quickly, just to kind of illustrate a point. You can trace it back in, right? And get smaller, and smaller, and smaller. Then you're going to do what I call an outer spiral. You're going to bend the knee while still pointing the foot. Remember, yoga is about isometrics. So you're always creating an isometric energy and toning and hugging the muscles to the bone. This will keep you safe. This will protect your knees, keeping the ankle and the knee bound by flexing the foot. So I'm just going to take my elbow and push the thigh away. And I feel this in the hips and in the low back. And it's going to be hard for you to not scoop like this, but keep an arch in the back. That drives the thigh bone into the back of the hip socket. When you get really flexible, you can begin to straighten the leg out like that. But you may not be able to get there. The most important thing is to keep the ankle and the knee braced. There is a tendency and a version of this where you just kind of flop the leg over to the side. I don't think that does much good. You want to target this right into the hip. There's another version of this where you can just eliminate the belt and hold the heel like that. Now this takes some flexibility. That's why I'm adding the belt. You may only get to here today. Don't strain or use your arm muscles to do this pose because you can hurt your back. The next stage of this is to switch hands. Keep extending from the core through the ball of the foot, and then twist. And notice my right leg or bent knee is just coming over to the side, but I'm keeping my gaze up and my heart open, my shoulders really tacked down. If the shoulder comes up, you just try to extend it back down. And sometimes just rocking back and forth like this will help. This series, by the way, is dedicated to my friend Nancy in Missouri, who asked, what are some things for people who are on their feet all day and don't have a desk to sit at? So thank you, Nancy. That was a really good request. Now, when I'm done, I'm just going to remove the belt and bring this foot down. By the way, for those of you who are more flexible and have a little more room, the opposite leg can be straight in this pose. But the leg that is grounding, that is staying on the ground, not the extended leg, that leg needs to be straight down on the mat with the feet pointing straight up, and that leg needs to stay toned, and the thigh needs to stay against the mat. That will require an arch in the back. So let's just make a circle here. And by the way, holding the leg, just holding it there, that feels so good. It drains the legs, it plugs the thigh bone in the socket, and I like to do all of my yoga breathing while I'm doing that. And all the while I'm visualizing that thigh bone in the socket and thinking to myself, this is where my thigh bone should live. Because when I stand or sit all day, my pelvis scoops, the thigh bones push, they push to the front of the thigh socket, which jams the psoas and pulls on the low back. So that's not good at all. That just really creates a perfect storm for back issues. So now I'm tracing this circle back in, getting smaller and smaller and smaller. When I come up here, I'm going to outer spiral the leg. Look at how much emphasis I put on the shape of the foot, because it's reminding my back of the shape to make. I'm going to take my elbow and just push this thigh open. Again, if you're more flexible, you might be able to straight or go towards straight. But you get the most work, I think, right here, just opening that hip. Then, after a few yoga breaths, remember that the breath cleanses all the toxins. So when you open up a joint like that and stretch muscles, you release toxins. Now, oops, we got to go into the twist. And you can do this twist, by the way, or any of these movements without a belt. You just take your hand and twist like this. But I like, as I mentioned earlier, the resistance of the belt because it trains my foot to stay aware. Continue to breathe. Inhale, bring the leg back up, and then just back down. To come out of this pose, you can lie there as long as you want, but you just roll out of it and come up to sitting. Like I said, it doesn't take much time. You don't have to go to a lot of work to do yoga, and you only need a little bit of space. So let's eliminate the excuses and start looking for ways to practice yoga. Thank you for joining today. Don't forget to stretch. Namaste. Have a beautiful week.